Today, we're doing boots. Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to Mountain Vibes. So thankful for you stopping by today. So today we're going to be going over boots. Now, boots are the most important part of your gear. You know, you could have the most expensive skis, the best skis, whatever, but if you have an ill-fitting boot or the boot is not proper for you, it's pointless. You know, you have to make sure you have the right fit. You may have to make sure you have the right flex, the right style. So today I'm going to be going over all of that to ensure that you're going to get the right boot for yourself. So without further ado, here we go. All right, let's start off with how a ski boot should fit. Now, best analogy I can come up with is think of it as a firm handshake. You know, you don't want your foot to be crushed. You don't want it to be super loose. You want it to feel like it's in there. You want to feel like it's supported. Because what happens is if you have a boot that's going to be too big, your foot's going to be sliding around. You're not going to either A, get the reaction time out of your skis, and B, you could also end up hurting yourself, because what's going to happen is if your foot slides around, you could jam it up against the front. I've seen people come back with a boot that's been too big and they end up with black toenails. Now, that's because their foot was able to slide around and jam against the front of the boot. So make sure that when you first try a boot on, it is going to be fairly snug. It is going to be something that you are going to have to get used to. Now, if you're actually new to skiing, it's definitely going to be a completely different ballgame. But although if you've rented before though too, a brand new ski boot will fit differently than a rental pair of boots. What's going to happen there is because a brand new boot has all this padding in the back and it's going to be very snug, especially down in the heel pocket, and it's going to be pushing your foot a little bit more far forward. So once a boot breaks in, you will gain a little bit of space. So now when it comes to the size of a boot, ski boots are sized in what's referred to as mondo. So mondo is what your foot is in centimeters. So once that is dictated, we'll be able to decide on what shell you are in. Now, also keep in mind that there's no such thing as a half size in ski boots. You'll see on a box that either say 26, 26.5. Now, although those 26 and 26.5, it says that they are a half size, but they share the same shell. So if you're someone who's just starting out or someone who's a little bit more on the casual side, you know, you could go for something a little bit bigger, something with a little bit more volume. You don't necessarily aren't going to need that precision, that really nice tight fit. So you can go for something with a little bit of a lower of a flex, or something that's a little bit larger in volume, just to help you feel a little bit more comfortable. Whereas if you're someone who's a little bit more on the aggressive side, or someone who's been skiing for a long time, you can go for something that's a little bit tighter. But then again, all this comes down to is your comfort level. It's your personal preference. Now let's go over the flex of a boot. So what I refer to as the flex is how much force is going to be required to actually move the boot. So a softer flexing boot, or something that has a lower number associated to it, is going to need less effort to actually move it. If something's a little bit stiffer, or a higher number, it's going to need a lot more effort to move it. So generally a stiffer boot is going to be tailored towards people who either A, are more aggressive, B, are an advanced skier, C, someone who's a little bit on the heavier side, or D, someone who's also a little bit on the taller side. Reason for this is that aggressive skiers or advanced skiers, they want that quick reaction out of their boots. They're going to be able to want to turn very quickly, stop very quickly, and also to just be able to maneuver their skis very well. So a stiffer boot will allow them to give them that instant reaction out of their skis. On the other side though, if you have someone who's starting out, a softer boot's gonna be a lot more forgiving. You know, it's gonna allow them to make mistakes. So if you go to turn and you need to bring yourself back over, in a stiff boot, you're gonna be forced to kind of go with that boot. Whereas if you had a softer boot, it's gonna be a lot bit easier to bring it back. So a softer boot's gonna be a lot better for people who are a little bit more on the recreational side, people who are starting out, generally also as well as some people who are on the lighter side, or even just on the shorter side too. If you don't have the mass to flex a boot, even if you are more on the advanced side, you would chances are go for a softer flexing boot. Okay, so now once you put the boot on, there is a kind of a general order of what you want to do the buckles up. If you're in a 4-buckle boot, you want to do the second one from the top first, then do the first one, then you're going to flex the boot. The reason for this is this whole motion helps lock your heel in the back of the boot. And then for the bottom two, the ones that sit over top of your feet, you just want to do them up a little bit. If by chance you have to crank the buckles, the boot is going to be too tall for you, and then what happens there, you're going to be manipulating or actually distorting the shape of the boot because you're trying to do it up too tight. And as well, you also run the risk of cutting off the circulation to the top of your foot, because that's where the nerves run and that's where the circulation goes through. So you don't want to do that. All the power and all the control comes from that top half of the boot. So get those as tight as possible, lock that heel in, and then let your foot settle into that. All right, so now once you've actually figured out what boot it is that you're going to be getting into, one thing that is highly recommended is getting a different footbed. The reason for this is like these things actually provide you with a lot better arch support, and it just gives you a much better fit. Any ski boot these days, it just comes with a little tiny thin piece of foam, and it doesn't give you really any support at all. So if you get for something like this, especially if you have high arches, what's going to happen is if your foot collapses inside the boot, your ankles or your shins could potentially rub against the side and creating what's referred to as a hot spot. So these will help alleviate those hot spots and helps prevent you getting foot pains as well, because if your foot's stuck into the boot and it needs to sprawl out because it's not being supported, you're going to get a lot of pain at the same time. So long story short is pretty much whatever boot you get a footbed, you will not regret it. All right, everybody, so that's it for me for today. Thank you so much for stopping by. Hopefully you found this video informative. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comment section below. If you like this video, hit that button. Subscribe if you have not already. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and I'll see you guys in the next video.